I don't know if anybody knows this guy here coming on. I'm not sure we should let him on.
No,
Uncle Rich Klein,
not at all.
Who's a pseudo like 6th or 7th host on the show with all the guys.
He wins the 6-man award.
Special guest star each, making a cameo. Usually the last half hour.
He's kind of like the Fonz.
Usually doing historical perspective. But since we have somebody who knows even more about history than I do, and we're talking about retail, I thought it'd be a good idea to ask Dr. Jim. We were in Walmart, and I forgot Target too, in the 90s, and I know that you used to talk to, the gentleman's name was Harold Anderson at Treat quite often. Can you just do a little background on what it was like being in the retail and how we got into it when we were at Beckett in the 90s, and what were some of the things involved?
Well, Harold was a really smart guy. The whole Anderson family everything they did was big. They were huge magazine distributors, got into cars. And he basically figured out he could make it every which way, because they would sell the product, push it in their various outlets. But also, if it didn't sell, they could bring it back, repack it, put it in with some other promotional stuff, and package it up in a different way. And so everything eventually got sold. So he built a really good business until, like I said, I think that bubble kind of popped. In fact, the whole magazine distribution business is very difficult as well. So, but I went to their warehouse one time in Alabama, and it was just amazing. Pallets stacked up to the sky of cards. Some were fresh and new and unopened, and others were these repacked things where they just got them. And they had a kind of an assembly line where the cards would come along, and every so often they would insert a better card. It was pretty mind-boggling. But like I say, that when we talk about the balloon popping, what we're hoping for is not that. We're hoping for, kind of taking a little air out of the balloon, not the balloon popping, but that balloon popped.
Okay. Now, my other historical perspective question. 1992, Pinnacle put a very popular insert into the retail packs called Slugfest. That was not in hobby packs. We priced them. They were cards. They were being transacted, and and at the time, hobby dealers were much more important, I want to say, than they are today in terms of the brick and mortar and how we as a community received our cards. Can you go through a little of what's involved in those days of making sure that we at Beckett priced the retail cards, and what did you ever get any real pushback on putting in retail cards into the magazines?
Well, we got to, again, I'm a hobby shop guy. I'm an LCS guy, from my background, and really want if the hobby is doing well, it needs a strong network of hobby shops. But retail's out there, and no matter what somebody said, those were cards that were very collectible, and we had an obligation from our position in the industry to price them according to what they were selling for. The problem later, and it's increasingly now become, that if something is a one per box, not one per pack, but let's say a one per box insert from Fleer back in the day, if it was hobby as opposed to being retail, the pricing could be different, and it's migrated differently into the future because the retail, even with the same pack odds, has now become tougher. And again, it's ancient history now, but if you look at some of the inserts that you think wouldn't be that tough from the Michael Jordan inserts from the 90s and stuff, if they came out of a retail, they're probably valued a little bit more than what came out of the hobby, just because, like you said, there was a segregation there that the LCS, a few of them would go and do, like you're saying, hunt down the Walmarts and things like that. But, it was, and again, the card companies were hobby first for the most part, but that just meant this retail stuff now looks like the tougher stuff to get.
And of course that came to a head a few years later, and I know you were starting to battle your health issue, your brief, when you had your heart attack, 1996-97 Chrome basketball, which ended up being retail only because not enough hobby dealers bought it. And of course you've got the Kobe Bryant rookie and other rookies that are sky high out of that compared to all the other Kobe Bryant rookies there are that year. So that one at least got accepted by the hobby. Wait a second. These are much tougher. Let's buy these. And we blew it.
Well, Rich, what you're bringing up is the reason why all five of us here are doing podcasts, because some of that nuance, that hobby history can help people, new collectors, like I say, or lapsed collectors, coming back collectors, to understand why something seems to be so much more expensive than it should be. So knowing some of the history is helpful. And if you weren't there, it's helpful to hear from somebody that was there. So not everything is rational in the industry, but many more things are than what people think. And again, that's the complications of a hobby make it interesting.
Because being as analytical as you are, I'm sure some of that is just looking and saying, this is interesting. This is totally different than what you would think the normal rational analysis would say.
Yeah, but I mean, now we're talking about a generation ago.
Oh, I know, it's amazing. It feels like yesterday, but it's a generation. It's 25 years ago.
But the good thing is that, like I said, Topps and the other card companies as well, the more they can marry up this nostalgia as well as what's hot right now, to me, that's a recipe for success.
Okay, John, you had a store during the early 90s. Your first pack has a 79 Reggie Jackson. So you lived through this differently than we did. I'd love to hear your opinions on what Jim and I were just discussing.
Yeah, from my store days in 92 to 96, 4 years, I mean, I had direct accounts with Fleer, Upper Deck, Top. So I just got my allocation right from them, and cases were delivered to the store. So like Dr. Jim was saying, I sort of avoided the retail because I was able to, and so I missed that, if you will, that element of cards, because I was having cases delivered right to the store on the day of release, and we pretty much bought everything. And so I had a partner in the store, and we knew we'd sit down each week and discuss the bills, and this product's coming out. And you got to remember, there was a lot less products back then too. So you could literally sit down in one day and look 2, 3, even a month ahead. Hey, this is releasing on the 14th. This is dropping on the 21st. Now you got to do that every day just to talk about 1 week's worth of a release under normal circumstances. And so it's different. So for me, it was just, we got the order form, or we got the notification. Hey, here's how many cases. I remember this. Sometimes they'd ask you how much you wanted, and you could buy more than a case if you wanted more. And that's what some of the meetings with my partner in the store was about, is how much of this do we want? How much of this? We kind of trying to gauge our market, our community. So this is going to be very popular. I don't think this is going to be great. Let's just get a case. And so that's, those days are, as we all know in this room, and probably those watching, those days seem like you said, it seems like yesterday, but it's a long time ago.